Okay, so I hope everybody's able to hear me now. Okay, yeah, it looks like it's working. I'm not sure if it was working earlier because I wasn't seeing the icon saying I was speaking. Okay, yeah, so it's working now. So yeah, what I was saying is welcome to day 8 of learning HTML. So for today, I won't be using a camera, but yeah, I'll be using one next camp. So, just as a quick refresher for what we did on day 7 last camp, we discussed us using Solo and Code Playgrounds and also using text editors. So, the difference between Code Playgrounds and text editors. We also transitioned to get away from Code Playgrounds because of the restrictions they gave us. Now we're moving on to using text editors. So, with that being said, let's get started. So, the topic for today, day 8, is audio. So, first of all, let's just do a little bit of like a bonus comparison. So, some of you might actually not know the difference between audio and sound. So, they're pretty similar. Audio is just more of a technical term, and audio is usually referring to sound coming from a recording, transmission, or electronic device. So, when something's coming out of something like our phone or our computer, we usually call that more like audio and stuff. So sound, on the other hand, can come from any source. So at the end of the day, it's really just both of them are sounds, but sound is just more broad. So it refers to sound coming from anything. It could be coming from birds. It could be coming from trees. It could be coming from anything, right? And audio is usually referring to things coming from like a recording or an electronic device. So, for example, we wouldn't say like a bird, this type of audio a bird makes, right? We'd be saying like the type of sound a bird makes. And yeah, so we're going to be learning how to get audio on our actual web page. So before we move on to that, let's also talk about something quickly called file extensions. So a file extension is a way of showing a type of computer file. File extensions are usually 3 letters long and come after the name of the file. So if we've had to create files before or save files, what we had to do was save the file as a certain file extension, and that helped point towards what the file is, right? So the file name and expression are usually, the extension are usually separated by a period symbol. So in this case, this file is named birdchirping.mp3. And .mp3 is the file extension, and bird chirping is just the file name by itself. So yeah, we already know what file extension HTML documents use, and that's .html. So that once again helps our computer recognize that's an HTML file, and it also even helps us, right? Because when we save it as that, we're able to see, hey, this is a .html, so it's an HTML file. And yeah, so those are file extensions. Those are going to be important for us to be able to find the files we want online to use for our audio file or just even saving files in general. So here's some file extensions for images. We've actually seen these ones already, .gpg and .png. And yeah, so these are used for images. You might be wondering, like, why is there more than one file extension for each thing, right? Because these are both image file extensions, but why do we need more than one image file extension? Well, most file extensions, they have something that they stand for, and they also have their own specific use cases. So these can be like really, really specific, and it depends what you're trying to do with the file itself. But for what we're going to be doing, this doesn't really matter to us. So yeah, just if you're curious, PNG stands for Portable Network Graphics, and GPG stands for Joint Photographic Experts Group. So since we're talking about audio, let's get back to that. So the most popular file extension we'll see being used for audio files is .mp3. And yeah, so there's not too much to say about it. It's just an audio file extension that gets the job done. So let's talk about adding audio to our web page. Audio element and control attribute. So to play an audio file in HTML, we first use the audio element. With the audio element, you also need to use the controls attribute to add audio controls. So the controls attribute is going to look a little bit different from what we've used so far, all the other attributes we've used, but I think we're going to get the hang of it quickly. Audio controls consists of adjusting audio, pausing and unpausing the audio, and skipping through the different parts of the audio. So those are all the ways you can control audio. In the name of that attribute, we used to get all of these controls to pause, unpause, skip, change the volume. The way we do all this is with the controls attribute. So here's what it looks like in its simplest form. We haven't added any audio, but this is just what it looks like to get the audio element within our web page and the audio controls. So simply, we have our opening tag with audio in it. But now something you'll see with this attribute controls is that we don't have to pass in any value at all because the attribute itself is enough to say. So all we simply do is just type in the attribute name. So in this case, it's called controls once again, and that's enough. So we're not passing in any values. This is the first time we've seen this. And then, yeah, we just close it off like that. Then we have our closing audio tag after that. So we haven't, once again, passed any a specific audio file yet, but we'll look into doing that afterwards. So once again, for the controls attribute, we do not have to give it any value. And yeah, now that we've discussed this, we can now start discussing linking our audio file. So there are two main methods to adding audio files. So you can choose one over personal preference. There's not really benefits between them. They get the same job done. So the main is using the source, or sorry, method one is using the source attribute. So the source attributes works the same way it did with the image element when we were adding images to our web page. So simply in here now, we type in audio s and then the source attribute, so src, and then we can say equals. We can put our quotations and then we put our audio link within those quotations. So same way we had a link for our image, we're also going to use a link for our audio file. So if something goes wrong, this text will appear. So in between these opening and closing tags, we can put text in between there. And in case if the audio file isn't loading for something, maybe the computer can't find that link you put in, or maybe it's just like some type of bug, right? This text will appear instead, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's the first method for adding audio. And let's look at the second method now. So the second method is using the source element. So there's actually an element called source as well, and we only need an opening tag for it. And what we would do is that we would put in our opening tag source. It's called source, spelled properly this time. And then on top of that, after putting that, now we put in the attribute source, so src. So it's kind of weird, but it gets the job done as well. So it's the source tag itself, and then we have src within it, and then we put our audio URL in it again. So hopefully that makes sense. And yeah, so once again, we have audio controls, and this is what it looks like when we add audio controls using that attribute. So this is, of course, the time bar, so we can drag and just skip to different parts of the track. This is just a timestamp, so you can actually see what part of the track we're at and also how long the track is. This is the volume adjuster, of course, and then this is the play and pause. So yeah, if yours doesn't look like this once you've loaded it in, that would be because of your web browser. So the look of this will slightly vary depending on what web browser you're working on. I believe I took this screenshot on Firefox. Once again, it might look different on Chrome or Microsoft Edge or Safari or just any other web browser you're using. And yeah, so with that being said, let's get on to doing this ourselves. So I'm not going to say let's go into Code Playground because we're done with that now. But instead, let's start working on this. So if you give me a second, please now, what I'm going to do is set up a file for us to start working in. So let me open up everything we're going to need for this. Honestly, I guess I can show you. I'll just load it up first. I see it. By the way, if you have any questions, I know I'm not sharing my screen right now, but if you have any questions to this entire thing, you can put your questions in chat and I'll do my best to answer them. So let's have this. I say let's just make this full screen, I guess. And yeah, okay. Okay, so hopefully you see my screen. I'm working in that text editor I showcased last time, Sublime Text. And yeah, we're going to start writing. So First thing we can put is our doc type declaration. So actually what I'm going to do, just to save us all the work of setting up the initial stuff, I'm just going to go to sololearn.com on my other display and copy and paste that basic setup for us. So we can just take it from there. So if you could just give me a second, please. So if you're confused about anything I've talked about so far, once again, you can put it in chat and I'll do my best to answer your questions. Okay, so yeah, we have the basic layout now. I've just copy and pasted it from SoloLearn, and let's change a few things now. So I'll just change the title to audio file. I'll just call it audio test, honestly. And next, what we're going to do is put something in our body tag. So remember to first thing, are you using Notepad? No, I'm not using Notepad. I showcased this text editor last camp, I believe. It's called Sublime Text, and it's a text editor built for actually like coding. So remember, Notepad was just built for taking notes, but it is technically a text editor, so we can create HTML there. But I'm working with Sublime Text, and it provides more features. So actually, if you want, I'll put the link to the Sublime Text webpage, like their official webpage, in the chat. And yeah, let's make sure this is the right website. And yeah, so I'll put this link if you're curious about it. And yeah, so let's continue on. So in our body tag, remember to actually define the audio piece in our web page. We use the audio tag or audio element like this. We also have a closing one usually, like that. And then now what we're going to first do is add our controls. So remember, adding controls just looks like this. So once again, we don't need to pass any values here. We can leave it like this and we'll gain access to all of the controls. So hopefully that makes sense. Moving on from that, now we've added our audio controls. We need to actually get our audio file itself. So remember, what we could do was that we could use the actual source tag. So source is a tag like this. It only has an opening tag. And then in it, oh yeah, it already completed all this. We don't need type, but in it, we can put in a source attribute. And then from there now, we can put in the link to our audio file. So grabbing the link to our audio file is what we're going to be looking at in a second. But yeah, so let's ignore all of this for now. I'm just going to get out of here. So what I want to mention is that there are two ways to go about really getting our audio file. So the first way, I guess you could say, is to create the audio file yourself and have it locally on your computer. So create audio file yourself and have it locally on your computer. The second way is to grab an audio file from online. Grab audio file from online. I spelled that wrong. But yeah. So to create an audio file yourself is just to make a recording or something. So I can actually do that for you guys right now in front of you. And actually, I guess I'll do that right now. So let me share my entire screen. Just give me a second. And yeah, 1 sec, please. Let's see. Okay, Lewis is the right one. And yeah, so let's do that right now. We're using Notepad, or not Notepad, sorry. Let's see. So I think on Windows, you actually get a pre-installed voice recorder. So let me see if it's actually, yeah, it's just called voice recorder. So I'm going to open this up, and I'm actually going to record an audio of myself speaking. So yeah, I'll just do it right now. So it looks like I have to press this to start recording, and I'm going to say, welcome to my webpage. Welcome to my webpage. So I've ended the recording now. I just want to play it, make sure I got everything I wanted. Okay, yeah, so it's making this sound. I'm not actually too sure if you guys are able to hear my audio from my screen. But anyways, this is the audio file that's working. So I just, if you're not able to hear the sound, it's probably because I'm sharing my screen incorrectly for you to be able to hear the sound. But what you need to know is that I've created an audio file right now on my computer. So it's just a recording. And yeah, it says welcome to my webpage. So as you can see, it was just created right now, 9:16, but that's not really what matters. What matters is the location of this file. So let's see if I can go about getting the location. So yeah, I can. So I just opened file location, and we can see it's called recording.m4a. And we see M4a, and I talked about MP4. M4a is just another file extension for audio, so it's just called a recording. So what I can probably get away with, if I really try, I can probably change the extension, but I'm just going to leave it as m4a.now. And what we're going to do is leave this alone for now. We're going to keep this open, but we're going to go back to, let me see, actually, how should we do this? Okay, well, first, actually, we need to even save our HTML file. We haven't done that yet. So let's do that first. So right now, we're doing method 1, which is, of course, just having the audio file locally on your computer. And usually if you have it locally, that probably means you created it. But yeah, it can also just be something you downloaded and it be local on your computer. So let's go back up here to our code and let's continue writing. So our source, let's just save this as it is for now. We have to choose a location to save it. And I'm going to save it on my desktop, and I'm going to call the file audio.html. Sorry if you can hear my sniffling. I might sneeze in a second. Okay, yeah, so I think the file's been saved now, saved under desktop audio HTML. And remember, when we're like doing components for our web page, we want them to be saved in the same location. So if we're grabbing another file from away and we're putting it in our same project file, it wants to be used in our web page or whatever, our HTML file wants to use it, and we want to have it under the same folder or like the same directory, okay? So in this case, my audio file needs to also be under desktop. And if it was in a project folder, I'd also put it in that project folder. So what I can do is something like this. So let's, we already got the file location actually over here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag this down to my desktop. So I'm moving this file wherever I decide to save it. This was over here. I'm just going to drag it to my desktop like that. If I open up my file explorer and I go to my desktop like that, we should see that the audio element is there now. So moving on, let's put in our audio element. So let's remember what we named the file. We named it audio.html. No, we didn't name it audio. It's called recording.m4a. So I can just type in recording.m4a. Let's make sure up here. Actually, I think I closed it. Recording.m4a. Yep. Let's capitalize this just in case. And let's just try running this right now. So I need to open up my audio file as well, like this. And this is what is currently on my screen, sorry. So yeah, this is what's on my screen. I've just loaded up the file that we created in this text file over here. I've loaded it into my web browser now. You can see it's called audio.html, and we also have the same title, audio test. And we can also see we have our audio controls over here like this. So there's a way we can actually just hide all of this, of course. Maybe we don't want the user to see all the audio controls. We can hide that, of course. But here we have all this stuff. So we can play the audio. And we can see it plays successfully. So I might have left you a little bit confused. So I'll try to explain what's going on here. So remember that source attribute we're using here. We're used to putting online URLs there so we can grab a URL from the web. With the source attribute, what it actually purely means is its name. It's the source of where that audio is coming from. So the source necessarily doesn't have to be our URL, because maybe we're not getting our audio file from a URL, right? Maybe it's not from a web page. Maybe it's our own that we created, or it's just locally on our computer that we already have. So if the source attribute, what we can also pass here is the location of where the file is. So if it's locally on our computer, I can say wherever the file is. So in this case, all I have to pass in is the title of the file, because it's under the same folder and our HTML page will see it there. It's under both desktop, so our HTML file will find it. But say it wasn't under desktop, I'd have to pass in more information, maybe what under folder it's in. So I just say folder. And if it's under a different whole folder, I could say, what's it called? I don't know, math. Just under a bunch of different folders, right? I link the entire location to it, and it usually looks something like this over here. So up here, we see users Adare desktop audio HTML. That's the exact location. That's putting all information for where this audio HTML file is located. So it's located under desktop, which is under Adare, which is under users, and then that's under my entire drive completely. So yeah, that's something new. Hopefully you learned about the source attribute. That's also something we wouldn't be able to actually look at ourselves if we were using Solo Learn Code Playground. Because Solo Learn Code Playground won't allow you to set a location that's local on your actual hard drive or your computer. But here we're able to do that. So maybe we don't want to use our local computer. Maybe we didn't create our own recording, or we don't even have any MP3 or audio file on our computer. We can still get it from the web. So let's look at my web browser. This looks like a good tab. And let's what's it called? Let's look at some audio files. So if I go back to my presentation quickly, I believe closer at the end, we look at we look at a website where we can go find sample audio files. So hold up, let me just see if I can find that quickly. Okay, no, so I'll just type it in here. MP3 files. Or MP3 sample files is probably what I want, sample files. Okay, so trying to see if this is the website I used last time. I need to find the website I used last time. So actually give me a second. I'm going to find the website I used last time, and then from there we'll continue on. Okay, let's see if I can find it. MP3 audio files. So just give me a second, please. I'm trying to find a good example I can use. Okay, so if I'm not able to find one because I can't find that web, okay, yeah, so it looks like I can't find the website I used last time when we did this for the previous entire camp. So what I say we do is that we move on to video now, because we can actually probably just use the same website we used for video there. So anyways, let's close out of here. We'll leave this open. So I hope you guys were able to hear the audio I played anyways. I'm just going to drag this over here. So I played an audio over here, and we added an audio element to our entire web page. So this is all we have because that's all I added. Once again, I'm not sure if you can hear it, but the audio is playing. And the only reason you wouldn't be able to hear it right now is because the way I'm sharing my screen. So let's go back to our presentation, and let's move on to video. So we're going to cover video now. And after that, that's going to be the end of our camp for today. So first of all, what is video? So I'm pretty sure you guys know what videos are, because I guess you're gonna say you're watching one right now. So a video is the recording of visual images. So to put it simply, it's audio with visuals. So examples of places where you can watch movies, just in case you're a little bit confused still. So you can watch it at the movie theater. Of course, you're watching videos at the movie theater. You're watching TV. That's a video that's playing on your screen. You're watching YouTube. Of course, that's a video playing on your stream. That you're watching Netflix, and of course, that's videos also playing on your screen. So the video element is very similar to the audio element, so I'm able to breeze by this a bit faster. And yeah, the video element defines a video file in HTML. So with the video element, you also need the controls attribute to gain video controls. And the video controls consist of adjusting pausing and unpausing the video, skipping to different parts of the video, and yeah. So once again, it's very similar to an audio element. You could actually even say we're just replacing the words actually. And yeah, so we're saying video controls as our opening tag, and we also have our closing tag. And once again, for the controls attribute, we do not have to give it any value. So there's some bonus attributes we can actually use with the video element. So we'll look at those as well, just to add on to it. So yeah, there are two great more attributes that we can use for the video tag. And just like the control attribute, both of those attributes do not require any values to be passed with them. So you can use both attributes on the audio element as well. The first is autoplay and the second is loop. So with autoplay, the video begins playing automatically on its own. And yeah, that auto word is automatically basically. So we're saying the video starts automatically playing the second it's loaded, right? And with the loop, pretty much what a loop is, if we know what a loop is, it's just something that keeps repeating itself over and over again. So in this case, if we add the loop attribute to our audio, after the video reaches the end, so maybe the video is 20 seconds long, and after it reaches the 20 seconds and it plays the full duration of the video restarts from the beginning, and that basically creates a loop, right? And there are many services and platforms we use that have videos loop. So for example, TikTok, Instagram Reels and stuff, those videos loop over and over again, right? Unless if you decide to keep scrolling and go to another video, those videos will keep replaying themselves. That's pretty much what we can do here with the loop attribute. We can create our video to keep replaying itself over and over again. And yeah, so for the autoplay attribute, we don't give it any value. And then for the loop attribute, we also don't give it any value. So let's look at using all of them together. So the video starts on its own and it also keeps restarting over and over. So this is what it looks like to use all three at the same time. And yeah, so a common file extension for video files is .mp4. And how to get a hold of a video file now. So of course we could do it in two ways. We could create our own, or not necessarily create our own, just have one locally on our computer, or we can get one from the web. So, okay, yeah, look, so I have a link here for this one to get a link for MP4 files. And yeah, so let's load it up over here. So we've actually loaded the file now. Let's look at, oh, so if this is the website, I think I was on the right website before, so we could have just used it. But anyways, as you can see here, I'm not sure if this has audio because I don't hear any, but this is just a video of what looks like to be a planet spinning. So we look at the extension of this link and we see that it actually ends with all the way down here. We see that this is a video example, whatever, .mp4. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to copy and paste this first of all. This is going to be handy for us later. Now we're going to go back to editing this HTML file we were working with. So I have it open right here and let's go. So I'll just change this to video test just for the sake of what we're doing. So video test. And yeah, so once again, doing this is pretty simple. I'm not going to switch it out in this case. What I'm actually going to do is that I'm going to properly, I'm just going to properly rewrite everything so we can see it again. So it's video, and we can have our closing tag, and we can have controls like that. We don't need to pass any values there. And now we need to put in our link. So the way we put in our link, I didn't show this in the slides. I'm not actually sure if it's there. The way we put in our link is also the same way we can do it for audio as well. So yeah, we see SRC video link here. And we also see something happens if it goes wrong. And yeah, let's go back to writing. So here I'll put up SRC as well. Quotations, and then now I can say whatever I want. So the source of the video is where we were looking at earlier over here. So this time it's an actual URL. That looks good. And then we can put text here in case if something goes wrong. So I'll just say something went wrong, like that. So we have our closing video tag, and that's pretty much it. So let's try running this now. So I'm going to save this, and now we're going to go back to our web browser, and we're going to run it. So this is the file we had open, and we see our video successfully loaded. So you can imagine we can also go full screen. That's one of our controls here. I can make the video go full screen and stuff. But you can also imagine with CSS, we can make this video be larger. We can also edit and change that we don't see these video controls anymore. Maybe the video is just in the center of the page and it just keeps looping, so it's the full screen experience basically. And yeah, we can edit a lot of things about this. This is just like the simplest way, basically just using pure HTML to get a video file in our web page. And once again, of course, we can change the size of this using things like CSS, like the width and the height of whatever you want to call this. So yeah, we have a video playing. Let's get to different parts. And yeah, so that's getting a video using a URL. So it's going to be pretty weird for me if I were to try to create my own video right now and load it up in the page. But I think you can imagine how that would be done, right? So I'll tell you pretty much the steps where it will need to happen. First, you need to record your video somehow and grab it. If you're not recording it, you just need the downloaded file for your video. If you did record it yourself and you did it on something like your phone, you need to transport that file from your phone to your computer using like maybe you could use Bluetooth, or you could use a cable to do that. And then from there, you simply just, instead of typing in a URL like we did here, you type in the location of where that video file is and also the right extension. So let's say I had a video file in the same folder I had as my HTML file. All I would have to do is type in the name of the video file .mp4. So it would be maybe bmovie.mp4, whatever it is. And yeah, so it's just like that. We would do the same way we would do for our own audio file. But creating, of course, our own video file would probably be a little bit more complicated than audio, since you need a camera to capture. So hopefully everything makes sense so far. Also, once again, if there are any questions, you can put them in chat and I'll be sure to answer them. But with that being said, let's see if I have anything else I want to cover. But that's pretty much going to be the end of today's camp. So let's see why full screen isn't working. Let's go like this. So yeah, that was MP4 files. Of course, we could add it like that. And yeah, so that's pretty much the end of today's camp. So if you don't have any questions and everything went well, I recommend you try experimenting with adding your own video and audio to HTML. I also recommend you look into seeing what's possible you can do with CSS with that. Different ways you can have it display and stuff like that with CSS. And yeah, so I'm just going to say a disclaimer. There's other ways we can go about getting video files on our page, in our web page, of course, besides just using the video element. Many people maybe don't use the video element to do this, but this is one of the simplest basic ways we can do it with just HTML. It's a tag new, and this tag actually was introduced in HTML5. So other previous versions of HTML didn't have the video and audio tag, but now we have them. So with that being said, I'm just going to wrap things up here. So thank you for joining me. I hope you learned something new, and stay tuned for next camp for day 9 of learning HTML. So yeah, this was Derry, and I'm signing out. Goodbye.